Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Ackleon here, and welcome back to each one of it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. Of course, in today's video, we are taking a look at Sloot's interview with Morgan Day. Now, I have had a chance to watch the interview. I've watched it about twice, skipping through certain things, just trying to get my head around some of the things that Morgan Day said there. And there really is a lot. This interview is quite long. It's almost an hour long, or just under an hour long. But for the most part, very run-of-the-mill, things we've already discussed, things we already know about. So we're going to go through the things that stood out most to me. There's a very big lore nugget in this video, and for those of you that don't know, that's sort of the stuff that I really hone in on, and that's sort of the things that I really want to discuss, and we're definitely going to get into that. But for the most part, the interview was pretty run-of-the-mill, but we'll get into that in a second. Before we do, though, remember you can join me live on Twitch, link in the description down below, and if you want more lore every single day, head over to Patreon and become a patron. There is a podcast, there is behind-the-scenes videos, there is everything you need to keep your fix for World of Warcraft lore high up there, just right that high. And then, of course, when you're that high, what you need to do in order to keep that high, if you are hyped up, and I mean hyped up, on the lore of World of Warcraft, what you need to do to make the lore even better, to just upgrade it like 20, 30, 40%, you smack that little like button, just a quick fucking tap, just like that, turns it blue, it helps the channel, it helps you. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're talking about Sloot and Morgan Day, we're talking about the interview. There's a lot of things in this interview that I genuinely am not going to get into, because it's things that Ian have already discussed. It's things like Mythic Plus, things like raiding. There was one thing that sort of stood out in the Mythic Plus raiding class balance discussion that they were having that I think is worth sort of talking about, and it's the ongoing battle that Blizzard has with balancing classes. And I think one of the key things that stands out here, and one of the things that I just want to discuss right off the bat, is the format in which these things are done. And it is because in one of the final questions that Sloot had for Morgan, Sloot asked him, just first, before we even get into it, I want to thank the WoW developers for doing things like this. It's amazing to get your feedback, to get you for an hour, to sort of hear community members ask questions and get real answers and sometimes explanations for some of the things that just doesn't make sense to us. You make changes and we're sort of left wondering, but why is this change being enacted when really this is the thing that we wanted? And that's really what this main question boiled down to, and you'll see how that fits into the whole class balance discussion. Sloot did ask, look, very often for players, it feels as if you ignore the questions that we have, the complaints that we have. It feels as if we suggest something, and then X1, X2 comes and goes, nothing changes, and then in X3, you finally do the things that we as players have been saying since X1, sometimes since Alpha. We've been saying these things should have happened, and then only in X3 do they finally come to fruition. And I'll say this, Morgan's answer was adequate. It wasn't necessarily on the nose, but just reiterated that they do take feedback into consideration, but they try to balance the feedback with their own vision for what they want the game to be. And this really is where I think one of the key issues for me lie within that philosophy. Now, before I discuss that key issue, let me be clear about one thing. On this channel, for the most part, you do not really get a lot of negative content or me focusing on the negative stuff. I will focus on the negative stuff when I think it's necessary to be focused on. For the most part, I avoid those negative conversations, mainly for my own sanity. Contrary to popular belief, it's not fun being negative all the time. It brings you down, it ruins your content. So I tend to focus on the story, the lore, the things that I actually care about, because at the end of the day, some people will like world quests, I can hate them, but I'm not going to sit here and just pinpoint every wrong thing that Blizzard is doing, every wrong thing that I don't like, because that's not the kind of content that I want to run on this channel. So when I talk about things like this, I want you to take a more philosophical approach and realize that I'm not just blindly attacking Blizzard for anything. This is not a blind attack on Blizzard. This is not negativity for the sake of being negative. This is me genuinely calling out things that I see that could be wrong and that could be changed actually quite easily. And why I want these changes is because I actually care about the game. I actually want the game to be good. I want to be able to log in every day and have fun in the game. Now, with that said, Morgan, they do sort of listen, but they want to, sort of balance the two, their vision and then the player's vision. And that's where my first problem comes in. And it really comes in the form of this interview and the format that Blizzard constantly goes into with these interviews. All too often, it is sit down for an hour. The content creator has an hour to ask as many questions as humanly possible, and this oftentimes leads to the content creator having to gloss over things, right? So there is no back and forth. There is no, okay, this is your answer, but may I respond and just say this, and this, right? So there's no rebuke process whereby the developers can get some insights into why certain content creators and their communities, because believe it or not, almost all of my viewpoints is inspired by you, my community. I don't hold these viewpoints in a bubble. If I feel something, it's because I've heard a lot of my community discuss it, and they sort of agree whenever I discuss it that this is something. So a lot of the time it is a two-way street. You are as informed about certain things and feel about certain things the same way that your community does. So I would love Blizzard to change this format into more long-form, sitting down for a podcast, doing 2 hours, sitting down, giving the content creator the ability to slap back and say, but no, this is not something we want. Again, in this interview, there were a couple of instances where Sloot was clearly going, oh, no. Like with Preach, where it was just like, oh my God, no. Where you have those moments and you can see that they don't have the time to draw in on it. Now, just in the long roundabout way of saying, Blizzard, at the end of the day, you have to lose the ego of this is our vision with the systems that we design, and we're going to stick to that vision. That ego needs to go. When the vision that you had for a specific thing doesn't work out, no player is going to blame you when you fundamentally redesign the system to fit with what players actually want. At the end of the day, that's the contract. You design content, players play the content. If they don't enjoy the content, you have to design it so that they do enjoy it. No player is going to fault you for that. Not a single content creator is going to go, oh my God, Blizzard is just doing everything we want. Clearly they have run out of ideas. No. The whole point is that it is a give and take. It is a sort of, sometimes it's hit and miss. There are times like the artifact weapons where they were really cool and they just worked and very few of us had anything bad or negative to say about them. And then there's times where they're just shit and we have a lot to say about them. So take that feedback and accept the fact that maybe your vision didn't work out that way. It feels to me like Blizzard is oftentimes just very caught up in this vision that they have, and nothing really pointed out more than the whole class balance discussion, where Sloot sort of asked questions about the global buffs that certain classes bring that sort of make them mandatory, even though they may not be the top thing there. They're just mandatory because they bring this global buff, and sort of asking, but could we get that on other classes? And then you have classes that's been fairly dead for a very long time, and they still aren't fixed. They still haven't been fixed. Where is the fundamental redesign of these classes? Where is the fix to the problems that these classes suffer from? And Morgan did make an interesting argument here where he stated that, look, a lot of the time there's nothing wrong with a class. In a 1v1 on the dummy scenario, this class will put out as much DPS, if not more, than any of the other classes in the game. But on the encounters that we design, this class just does not feature. Now, that thing to me suggests that you have to be more open to discussion with your community members. And in this case, I wouldn't even say be in discussion with content creators. I would say be in discussion with the theory crafters, the people that run the class discords, for example. Reach out to them and once again establish that relationship where they can tell you, look, the fight as this exists right now isn't going to work for balanced druids, or isn't going to work, well, fuck balanced druids. Convoke can go suck a dick. but it's not going to work for Feral Druids, right? Or it's not going to work for an Affliction Warlock, or whatever the case might be. Blizzard needs to learn how to incorporate the community, because the community is large, and they sometimes, not always, but sometimes they know what they're talking about when they tell you that something isn't going to work, and then your ego really can't be in that conversation. Now, moving on swiftly from that, because I think a lot of that, the raids, the Mythic Plus stuff, there was a lot of discussion there, and you are absolutely welcome to go watch the interview. I'm not going to go through it right now, because these aren't things that I'm necessarily as fond of or care about as much, but for the most part, they were things that we've already heard. Ian sort of discussed this with Breach already, and we've heard this since the beginning of the expansion, really. What I really wanted to focus on is the Torghast discussion, because, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is where things got, I'd say, a little bit broken. Okay, so first and foremost, it was just announced sort of off the cuff that the whole Twisted Corridors is dead. They're not going to do anything with Twisted Corridors in 9.1. They'll bring it back in 9.2, most likely. They'll do updates to it, but for now, they're only really focusing on the core Torghast experience. And one of the things that Morgan Day said in this is, you know, they've been looking to add more cosmetics to give people more reasons to be in there. They've added the not the timer, but the scoring system, and he did actually state, and this is why I'm sort of gonna pull back on any sort of criticisms of Torghast until we've seen the whole of Torghast, because he did state that what we see right now, that scoring system, is still very incomplete. There's still a whole slew of changes and implementations that need to happen on the BTR before that system will fully be implemented. So I'm not going to talk about how quickly it runs off or how much it makes you feel like you're rushing. I don't want to focus on that. What I want to focus on is the core philosophy. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video in which I said, or at least players thought I said, or viewers thought I said, that Blizzard should remove rewards from the game, which I never actually said. Not once did those words come out of my mouth. I never said that Blizzard should remove rewards. What I was talking about, and what I want you to focus on when I'm discussing this with you, is philosophy. There are two fundamental ways in which you can design your game from a philosophical standpoint. Fundamental way A is to look at the rewards that you wish to implement. So you want to implement gear, you want to implement anima, you want to implement conduits and soul mines, and you want to implement soul ash. Now you go, right, we have all of these things that we want to implement. What tools can we use to get this into the hands of players that isn't just us handing it to the players every day? And then you go about designing a couple of tools, and bam, there's the tools, go play the game. Versus fundamental design philosophy number 2, or B, which is we want to design a bunch of systems that's really cool, right? So we're going to look at each one of these systems, and we're going to implement them in the best possible way. Fuck the rewards. We're not looking at the rewards right now. What we're looking at is the system. So we're looking at World Quests, and we're saying, right, how can we make World Quests so fun that players actually wish to engage with them? Now remember, World Quest is always going to be a grind, because it is an MMO. There must be a grind, and I personally don't mind that it is a grind. I would prefer if it was a grind with a little bit more brain to it. So if you are going to keep me busy for 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, I want to feel like my life is in danger, right? I want mobs where I'm actually reacting to things, where my skill set is being challenged, rather than just me sort of just having to kill a whole bunch of things and then collect a whole bunch of things to do another thing, and then finally I get to do the thing, right? So that really is the main problem for me within this entire discussion, that I wish Blizzard would just sort of, you know, that really would be the thing. But looking at Torghast, for example, if that is the system that you wish to implement, it has to be a system that is implemented from the ground up to be as fun and engaging as humanly possible to every player that engages with that system. And then once you have all of your systems implemented, now you say, right, which rewards can we give to which of these systems to be the cherry on top? So what that then means is you have Torghast, and it is a roguelike experience. It is fucking hard. Once you reach Torghast floor 8, the mobs will kill you. If you get hit by any of their abilities, it is a one-shot. The bosses have upwards of 6 to 7 abilities. That means that a lot of your time is spent dodging, kiting, using the traps, the architecture within the room to your advantage to actually get the boss down, right? So that's what the main focus of this thing is. So then you say to yourself, well, we do want the ability to upgrade legendaries, but we can't put that in Torghast. It's too hard. The vast majority of players will not complete the maximum floors of Torghast. So maybe cosmetics go there, because it's the one thing that players, you know, if you can't do it, you can't do it. You have to keep leveling up. It's not tied to your player power, so it's not going to increase your power. Therefore, it doesn't matter if it takes you the whole expansion to finally get all of the things that's in there. That's the point of it, right? And then maybe you look at your Mythic Plus, or you look at your Mythics, or you look at your Raids, and you say, okay, these make sense for the sort of Soul Ash, because this is where Soul Ash is. Maybe we can put some Soul Ash on some emissaries, and we've got this Maw system as well. Soul Ash can be put there, so whenever people kill bosses, world bosses in the Maw, they get some Soul Ash, and this is what they will use to upgrade their legendaries. Boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. Everyone can now partake in the systems, because the systems are fun from the ground up, and you don't have conflicting sort of rewards within these systems that really breaks the system. And this is the problem with what Morgan Day himself in the interview acknowledges, but for some reason they don't see the problem. He states that they realized early on in Shadowlands that it's too hard. A lot of people can't actually clear all of the floors, and so they had to nerf it because people need the Soul Ash from it, and they can't have something that's too hard that awards the Soul Ash. And I'm sitting there going, make the fucking connection here. Just connect the dots, bro. It's so simple. Once you remove Soul Ash, all of your problems with Torghast disappear. Like, literally, immediately. All of the issues with Torghast disappear in an instant. Bam, you can go. I have an entire video that I'm doing on Torghast that's going to go into how I think that should be changed. But that's sort of the problem, and that's again going back to what I said initially in the video. Blizzard needs to start doing more long-form discussions with their player base, with their audiences, and with their content creators, so the content creators have the ability to drill down on these things, so that it's not just a case of these things is the ability for us to get information to the player, but also becomes this is the ability for us to get information from the player, right? And that really is what I think is the fundamental necessity within World of Warcraft at the moment. It's the fundamental flaw within World of Warcraft at the moment, is that Blizzard have their own ideals for what they think the expansions would look like, and then the player has a different idea for what they think the expansions would look like. But it's clashing. It's not actually working together. And so many of these things can be fixed in an instant by just moving things around. Like, for example, Soul Ash and Torghast. If you just move that over, just move it, right? Suddenly Torghast is fixed. You can make it as hard as humanly possible, right? And they are announcing more and more cosmetics, but again, it's the carrot that forces you into the content. The content should be the carrot that makes you want to do it. The reward should be the cherry on top. You should want to do Torghast, and then you get a cool mount, and you go, oh my god, I just did this amazing 2-hour fucking run in Torghast. Look at this mount. Worth it, right? Because everything was fun now. You had fun in everything. It's not a case of, okay, I'll sit through 2 hours so that I can hopefully get the mount. No, the content should be the reward, and the reward should really be the cherry on top of it. But I've said that so many times, I'm sure most of you are fucking done with me discussing this shit. So, yeah. At the end of the day, a lot of things in this, like I said, isn't stuff that I'm not gonna cover. I just sort of wanted to talk about those two things, and now we get to what I consider to be the biggest reveal, but I'm not going to discuss it in too much detail because I will be discussing it tomorrow during the live stream on Twitch. But Sylvanas, Morgan Day made a I want to say, very calculated statement where he said, the bow, you'll loot that off of Sylvanas's, corpse. He literally sort of paused before he said it, and then he went, corpse. And a lot of people immediately went, oh my god, she's dying. She's finally dying. Oh my god, she's dying. If you listen to how he revealed that, now first and foremost, Blizzard have been tight-lipped about what happens to Sylvanas. Do you truly believe that a developer with as much experience as Morgan Day would, even for a moment, let something like that slip? Especially considering the fact that he paused before he said it. Make no mistake, as Sylvanas is right now, she is a corpse. So even if she handed you the bow, you'd still technically be looting it off of her corpse. Because she is one, she isn't alive, she is very much dead. So even if Sylvanas, this was a test to see if we're strong enough to take out the jailer and all of the systems within the Shadowlands, that could still be the case, right? It is a massive reveal, but I do not think it means death, mainly because there's no way that any developer with the experience of Morgan Day, and believe me, I've spoken to enough of World of Warcraft developers to know that they get trained to say the right things at the right time. They know what they're allowed to speak about. They know what they aren't allowed to speak about. Not only that, but there's some evidence that Sylvanas may actually be redeemed in a very roundabout way, which again will be discussed tomorrow during the live stream. That's sort of the biggest things that came out of this interview that I wanted to discuss. At least I'm sure there's things that other content creators will discuss that you will find even more interesting, and that will be things that you focus on, and that's fine. For me, these are the things that I found interesting. These are the things that I truly cared about. But I want to hear from you. If you watched the whole interview, let me know in the comment section down below what you enjoyed most about the interview. If all you watched was this video, let me know your thoughts on my thoughts and what you think. Maybe I got something wrong. Maybe I didn't. Maybe you agree with every word I said. Still, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section down below, and also it does help out the channel. So with that said, remember to slap that like button, spank it, turn it blue. Everyone is happy. The world really is yours at that point. So if you give it a spank, I will absolutely love you forever for that. And then of course to all of the patrons, the YouTube channel members, and the Twitch subs, thank you so much for your monthly contributions. It does mean the world to me. Thanks to you guys, this channel is still growing, and it's growing stronger every single day. I quite literally wouldn't be here without you. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, it was my name is Aquilon, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.